For a wrap-up of the day, we are now joined by SABC News reporter Jayed-Leigh Paulse. Jayed-Leigh, thanks very much indeed for joining us. It certainly was not a day without events today.
That's very true, Peter. Very good evening to you and the viewers back at home. Well, we saw the Justice and Correctional Minister, Ronald Lamola, visiting the correctional facility, and he had a small little media briefing where he spoke to journalists, and he spoke about what exactly is going to happen at the correctional facility, just dealing with former President Jacob Zuma's incarceration. There's been a lot of speculation in the media as to he'll have preferential treatment. Journalists also posed these questions, and this was a media briefing that allowed them to also air their questions rather, and get some information with regards to what exactly is going to happen now that former President Jacob Zuma has been incarcerated. And we saw the Justice and Correctional Minister there answering those questions and also adding more information to the general public, such as the fact that the former president will be isolated for 14 days. He will not be in contact with any of the inmates, and also saying that he will be eligible for parole once he served a quarter of his sentence. So some of that information came to the fore in the first half of the morning. Later in the afternoon, towards the evening, we saw the MKM-VA supporters as well as Carl Niehaus making their way from Nkandla. And during a live interview with the SABC, Carl Niehaus was arrested by police just outside the Estcourt prison and taken to this police station just behind me right now. There has been a statement released by Brigadier Vishnaidu saying that the reason why he was arrested is because of the contravention of the COVID-19 regulations and lockdown rules. And we have seen this play out with Mr. Niehaus, where he has been in the forefront of large gatherings, this at Nkandla and now again at the prison here in Estcourt. Just after 8 o'clock, Peter, I must make mention that he was released on a 3,000 Rand fine, and he will be going back to court on the 6th of August. He has been formally charged with that contravention of the Disaster Management Act. Peter.
And also, of course, perhaps predictably, because we know South Africans, we can't help ourselves, pictures of the former president were leaked, and this in contravention of correctional services rules.
That's very true. We also saw this coming out in the media briefing this morning with the Justice and Correctional Minister saying there that, we cannot have the media taking photos. He was also answering questions of journalists who asked, would it be possible to just have one picture of former President Jacob Zuma just to confirm that he is in fact at the Estcourt prison? And we saw, the minister saying there that no, this is not the case. We cannot have the media having any of these photographs. But to our surprise, there were these photographs that were leaked, Peter. It went all over social media. We saw them on Facebook and Twitter, and several WhatsApp groups shared by various people. Not sure who exactly leaked these photographs, but a statement was then again released saying that anyone that was sharing these photographs were breaking the law and should not be doing such. And also saying that former President Jacob Zuma has rights. We're not sure if he was privy to this information. Did he know that these photographs were leaked to the press? But basically saying to the general public that they cannot share any of these photographs of former President Jacob Zuma and share it amongst their friends and so forth, Peter.
All right, so today was his first day. Did we get a sense of what a typical day in his life is going to look like going forward?
I think that's one question that everyone wants to know. I mean, one of the questions that I thought of was, what is his first supper going to be? We know that he handed himself over in the early hours of the morning, and technically this will probably be the first night where he will be sleeping at the Estcourt prison. But I think many people want to know, what will he be eating? How does his room look? What is he wearing currently? And these are just questions that a layman person wants to know. Everyone wants to know. I mean, he was, our president. He was the former statesman of the country. And when we think of people, we revere them in a high regard. So these are questions. I mean, this is literally history. We've never, ever seen a former president being incarcerated without trial. I think this is a first ever. There hasn't been anything like this. This is history in the making. So indeed, a lot of questions, a lot of people have been asking me as well, and tweeting me and asking me, what is it like there at the prison? What do you know? What information's coming to the fore? Tell us. And unfortunate part is, as the media, we are also not privy. We cannot go into the correctional facility. We have to broadcast outside. But indeed, a lot of questions are surrounding how he's being treated behind closed doors, Peter.
And what was the mood like for his supporters that had come outside the prison today? Last night there was a lot of singing and almost an atmosphere of "we will fight this." What were they like today, now that actually the issue is quite far behind them?
That's true, and I think that as a viewer back at home, you can actually physically see some of the support diminishing. We see that in Nkandla, with those groups getting smaller and smaller and smaller. But we must remember that it is COVID-19, and there has been a stern warning by the Minister of Police, Jayed-Leigh, on Sunday, saying that people should not take advantage of the situation, that they should adhere to COVID-19 regulations, and also alluding to the fact that the reason why police basically folded their arms during, the Nkandla episode, when former President Jacob Zuma was still at his homestead, was that there were a lot of supporters who were walking around with ammunition, with guns, and they did not want to create an environment where we could possibly have seen bloodshed, Peter. So we did see the minister coming out strongly, saying that it was not that police were not doing their jobs, but more of protecting innocent lives during that period. But now that we've seen former President Jacob Zuma being brought to the correctional facility and handed over, we do see the numbers slowly diminishing. There was a small group of MKMVA and also ANC supporters outside the correctional facility today, before they were dispersed after Carl Niehaus was apprehended, or rather arrested, in front of us. But generally, the support seems to be getting rather small.
And one gets a sense, listening to the correctional facilities and senior figures in the correctional services, that they wanted to make sure that people understood that former President Jacob Zuma is going to be treated just like any other prisoner, with no frills and extras.
That's very true. And I think the general public also wanted to see that play out. We know that he is highly respected. He has a huge following in KwaZulu-Natal. And I think anyone that has been following the Jacob Zuma trial, watching the Zondo Commission, everyone thought that, once we get to this point, he will receive preferential treatment. But we have been told, once again, by Justice and Correctional Minister there, Ronald, Lamola, that that is not the case. Former President Jacob Zuma will be treated like any other inmate at this facility.
Jayed-Leigh, thanks very much indeed. We'll leave it there for the time being.